me give you an overview of the pattern. So first of all, we're going to start with making a granny square, of course. And then I'm going to show you my notes. So then we're going to turn the squares into columns. I'm going to join them together. For larger sizes, you're going to have to join 5 squares, and for the rest 4. So join your I'm going to show you, but this is an overview. So we're going to join the granny squares into the either 4 or 5 square columns, 4 of columns, and in 2 columns of 3 for the sleeves. And then we're going to make the 2 front pieces, and then we're going to start making the back piece. And as we make the back piece, we're going to join with the front piece and join the whole body. Then of course make this is a small picture of the sleeves, and this is also the sleeve. So we're gonna make the sleeves and seam the sleeves and sleeves into body and the shoulders, and we're gonna add a border. So I'm using a 9mm hook and Lion Brand Vanna's Choice yarn in Kelly green, lemon and white. And first of all, we're gonna begin with making our first granny square. So take your lemon, and I like to leave the tail quite short because I like to hide it as I make the first round. So make a slip knot on your hook and chain 4. And this granny square has 4 rounds, 1 lemon, 1 white and 2 green. So we've chained 4, and now we're gonna form a ring by making a slip stitch to the first chain. Okay, now we have our little ring. At this point, I like to twist the tail around along the ring, so that along the shape of the ring, so round, so that I can crochet over it. So kind of loop it around, and now you're ready to crochet over it. And the first round is chain 3 and 2 double crochets into the ring, and chain 1 and 3 double crochets into the ring. So we made 2 clusters, and the first chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So all we need to do at this point is make 4 clusters with chain 1 between each cluster. So what I like to do when I made my 4 clusters, I like to chain 1 and then join with a slip stitch to the top of chain 3. I also like to insert my hook through both loops so that it looks more neat, rather than if I just inserted the hook through one loop. So it pulls the chain 3 just in the right way when I insert the hook through both loops, and this post looks just like a double crochet post, even though it's a chain 3 post. One thing I also like to do is we need to change the color, and I do like to make my last yarn over and pulling through in a new color. So I will actually go back and cut a tail. So we need to change color to white because next round is white. So I like to change color using my method that leaves no tails behind. You can check my video for that. So the way it goes is you need to stop just before the last time you yarn over and pull through and start your color change. So I'm gonna do that quickly right now. So now finally I can complete this round, and I have my new color ready to go. So round 2 is in white. So we chain 3 and we turn as well. So you're facing the wrong side of your first round. This counts as a double crochet. Now I'm gonna make, so I have these 4 corner spaces that were made by chain 1, and in my first corner space I'm gonna make a bobble, which is double crochet 5 together. So yarn over and insert the hook into the space, pull up and yarn over, pull through 2 loops once. So this is your first partial double crochet, and make 4 more. 2, 3, 4, and 5 in total. 5. So you have 5 partial double crochets on your hook plus the loop from the chain 3. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, and we made a bobble which protrudes to the other side and makes it puffy, makes the petals puffy. So now I double crochet in the same space. So this is what I call a petal in this pattern. Well, I mean, I don't call it, but this is what forms a petal in this pattern. And each petal in the corner space is separated again as well by a chain 1. So it's like a granny stitch, but we're just replacing the middle double crochet with a bobble. So you have the bobble and double crochet on either side for each petal. So now this is the corners, this is my first petal. So I chain 1 and I make a double crochet in the same space because I need 2 petals. And so if this was the granny stitch, I would be making another double crochet right now and another one to finish the cluster, but I'm gonna make another bobble stitch instead. Double crochet 5 together. And yarn over, pull through all loops and double crochet to finish this cluster. So you have 2 petals made, and now to go on to the next corner space, but we're not making a chain 1 in between these 2 clusters right now, just between the ones in the corner. So complete this round by making 2 petals in each corner. So double crochet, bobble stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, bobble stitch, double crochet, and that would be your second corner complete. So I've completed 2 rounds. This is the back side, and as you can see, you can only see one place where I've changed the color, kind of a small knot, but it's sitting at the back, so it looks more or less like this in the fabric. And I have no tails. The first tail, if you remember, we made it shorter so I can hide it in the ring. And then from then on, I've been using that no tails color change method, where I just change the color and there are no tails left for me to weave in at the end. So 2 rounds complete. Round 3 is I'm ready to go with my Kelly green color, and we will make 2 rounds of green granny stitch. So round 3 is chain 3 and turn as well. So this counts as a double crochet, and we're making 2 double crochets in the same space below, and in the corner spaces we'll be making a granny cluster. So we're not making a chain 1 in between right now, just in the corner as before. So we're gonna make 3 DC cluster, a chain 1, and another 3 double crochet cluster in the same corner space, and you have your corner complete. Now for the next space, which is not corner space, we're just making a 3 double crochet cluster with no chain 1s before or after, and continue around. So make another corner just like before, and I'll meet you when you make your last corner. So I made it around, and I've made my last cluster in the last corner, and I'm gonna join with a slip stitch to the top of chain 3. Again, insert the hook through both loops. It looks nicer. And at this point I'm not gonna turn, because it looks a bit nicer looking at the granny stitch from this side. So I'm just gonna chain 3. This again counts as a double crochet, and then I'm gonna make 2 double crochets in the same space below. So this is my first granny cluster, and I'm gonna make 1 granny cluster for a space like this that is in between the corners, and for every corner I'm gonna repeat the same kind of sequence as with around 3. So will be 3 double crochets, chain 1, and 3 double crochets. So how do we join the granny squares together? When you make your second granny square, so you make the first one as usual, nothing happens there. Then when you make your second, your third, etc., you leave one full side that you haven't finished yet. This is your last round, and this doesn't count because you can't join just a little bit. You need to join on the full side. So make your first 3 clusters in the corner and don't make the chain 1. Then take your granny square you want to join with and remove the hook from the loop. Then insert the hook front to back through the corner space where you want to join, and pick up the loose loop from the square that you're just making and pull the loop up. And all we're gonna do now is chain 1 to secure in place. And now we're going to continue with completing this corner. We're gonna make a cluster of 3 double crochets in the same corner space, and after you meet the cluster, remove the hook from the loop again, and I will look at the granny square you're joining with. So you've joined in the corner. Now the next space you're gonna join with is between it's the next space along. So insert your hook front to back through that space and pick up the loose loop. Again, pull it up and chain 1 to secure it. And you're going to keep going. So after each time you make 3 double crochet cluster in the next space, you're gonna remove the hook again and insert it through the next space of the granny square you're joining with. Okay, and what do you do now? You have made your first cluster in the corner, and you have one corner space, the last space left to join on this side with the other granny square. So that's the last time you're gonna join. So pull up the loop and chain 1 And this is, you finished your business with this granny square. Now just complete the round as usual. So you have one cluster of granny stitch. So we're gonna make another granny cluster. So this is your corner complete and your joining complete, and now all you need to do is join with a slip stitch to the top of chain 3 to finish the round. And this is a very nice way to join the squares because it forms a braided look, which I really love. And it's very easy, and it doesn't use any extra yarn, and it doesn't pucker. It's flexible. It goes with the fabric. It flexes with the fabric. So what do you do when you've joined your granny squares into columns? So you've joined your granny squares into 4 or 5 square columns. Also into 3 square columns for the sleeves, and now we're gonna take 2 of those taller columns and we're gonna make front pieces, and with the other 2 we're gonna make the back piece. So the whole body of the cardigan uses 4 columns of 4 or 5 squares. So I'm gonna show you the 2-row repeat, which is all you need to make the front and the back pieces. So imagine, let's say this is a 4 or 5 square column that I've joined in preparation to make my front pieces. So what you need to do now is take your green and make a slip knot on your hook, and with the slip knot on your hook, insert your hook facing the front of your squares. Insert the hook through the corner space, top right corner space of your column, and then we can tuck the tail behind and we yarn over and pull up the loop, pull through the square and the initial loop on the hook. Now you've joined the yarn and we chain 3, and this counts as a double crochet, and we make another double crochet in the same corner space, and now at this point we are moving on to the next space. So we're working granny stitch in rows. So we're making 3 double crochet granny clusters in each space, and we're finishing with a 2 double crochet cluster in the last corner space. So when I say in each space, means this space, but also when it comes to the part where you've joined the granny squares together, we're gonna make 3 double crochet cluster here and here as well. So what we did here is we finished what I call row 1 in the pattern, and we made chain 3 and double crochet in the first space and 3 double crochet cluster in each space, including in spaces like this, and we finish with a 2 double crochet cluster in the last corner space. So row 2 is chain 3 and turn, and we see this space immediately after the 2 DC cluster below. So we're making 3 double crochet cluster in that space and in every space. So a cluster of 3 double crochets in every space, including of course between these 2 clusters, and we're going to finish with a double crochet to the top of chain 3 here. So we finished with a double crochet to the top of chain 3, and this is row 1 and row 2 complete. And now the pattern will tell you to repeat rows 1 and 2 for a certain amount of rows, and then fasten off this side, then turn it around, and while still facing the front, join yarn in the top right corner and repeat row 1 and just leave it at that. Have row 1, one row on this side and a certain amount of rows on this side. So this will be your one front piece complete, and then you will repeat the same with the again to have another front piece. So this is the row 1 for the front pieces, and I'm instructing all sizes to have one row here for the front pieces, and I'm instructing all sizes as well to have 2 rows on one side when you crochet into the column here, and 2 rows on the other side. And as you make row 2, you join with the first little piece that you made. So for example, if this is your back piece and you've made 2 rows, and then you need to fasten off and do nothing on the other side, and then take your other column and again do the same thing, make row 1, but as you make row 2 you will be joining with the other piece the same way we joined the squares together. So for example, this is my back piece. This is where I joined the 2 back pieces together. So this was the column that I started with, and it had 2 rounds of green, and after that I started with 1 column, and I made 2 rows, and I fastened off and left it like that. But when I made the second part of my back piece, when I made row 1 as usual, but row 2 I started joining with the other side with the other little back piece. So when you make row 2, when you're repeating row 2 and you're about to join with the other back piece, you chain 3 and then remove the hook from the loop and insert the hook front to back through between the chain 3 and the first cluster of that second row of the other back piece, and pick up the loop and chain 1, and then continue as usual. So every time you make a cluster, so you're making a cluster in the next space, and then remove the hook and insert the hook through the next space of the piece you're joining with, front to back, and pick up the loop, chain 1, and again, and keep going. So cluster and join, cluster and join. So it goes like that. So far I've explained how to make the front pieces and start the back piece. So you end up having 4 rows, 2 from each side. So 4 rows in between these columns, 4 rows in total. And the next step is as you extend your back piece. So remember how we did nothing on the other side, and now we're gonna repeat rows 1 and 2 for a certain amount of rows that your size tells you. And because we already made the front pieces, as you make the last row of your as you're extending your back piece, you're gonna be joining with the front piece. So this is where your head and your neck and your front is, and this is your side. So this is the side that you're joining with, and instead of seaming, you join as you go. And we're leaving again a few clusters that the pattern tells you, a certain amount of clusters unjoined for the armholes. So this is the armhole, and say so you've completed a number of rows that tells you for your size to extend the back piece, and then the pattern tells you, say you need to leave 6 granny clusters, including the two double crochet cluster, the first cluster including the first one, so 6 in total. Leave 6 granny clusters including the first one for the armhole. So it looks like this. You leave 1 2 3 4 5 6 clusters that are not joined, and same on the other side, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then you join the rest. You join in between the rest of the clusters, and this is where I'm joining with the front piece. So after you've joined with one of the front pieces, now we're going back to this side where we did nothing, and we are extending this side, so making the number of rows that the pattern tells you for your size. And again, as you make your last row, you're joining with the last row of the front piece where the side is supposed to be, where the side seam is supposed to be. So we know that these columns are sitting at the front on your chest, and this fabric, extra fabric, is granny rows are sitting on the side of your body. So we know that's where we want to join. And make sure that both of your armholes are obviously on the same side, so you don't get one here and one here. How do we make the sleeves? This is the sleeve, and as you can see, it's shaped. So we're gonna make a shaped sleeve. Remember when we left these 2 columns of 3 squares? We used the taller columns for the body of the cardigan, and now we have these 2 shorter columns left. So these will be our sleeves. So what you need to do is take your column of 3, and we're gonna join yarn as before in the top right, so face the front of your squares and align them horizontally in front of you, and then join yarn as before in the top right corner, and repeat rows 1 and 2 as I showed you until you have a certain amount of rows that the pattern tells you for your size. So the way I designed the sleeve pattern is that the larger the size, the more rows you end up making. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the largest size sleeve. So in order for me to be able to show you every step of the process. So for example, size 5x says that you need to repeat after you've joined the squares and started and joined new yarn, in the top right corner you need to repeat rows 1 and 2 until you have 5 rows in total. So that's what I've done now. And then there are row types that I call row 3, row 4, row 5, and row 6. So for example, what you would be doing right now is row number 3, row type 3. Row number 3 is after you've repeated a certain amount of rows that it tells in the pattern, you chain 1 and you turn, you chain 1 and single crochet in the same stitch. And then for different sizes it will be a different number, but say for size 5x, for the next 8 granny clusters, including the 2 double crochets below, 2 double crochet cluster below, single crochet in every stitch. So for the next 8 however many granny clusters, single crochet in the next stitch. So we've single crochet here and we continue until we realize that we're at the granny cluster that we're instructed to crochet up to. So for size 5x it tells me for the next 8 granny clusters, including 2 double crochets below, single crochet in every stitch. So I've done that 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This is cluster number 8, and I've single crocheted into the top of every granny cluster up to this point. So now I need to make 3 half double crochets in the space below. So because we're transitioning height wise, we don't want to jump straight to double crochets, so we're making 3 half double crochets in the space below and the next space, and 3 double crochets in the next space and in every space. So we're resuming the granny stitch. So the end of row 3 would be double crochet to the top of chain 3. So this is what it looks like. Again, row 4 is chain 3 and turn. Double crochet in the same space. So for the 5x sleeve, I'm instructed to resume the granny stitch, so 3 double crochets in the next space until I have 4 granny clusters in total, including the first 2 posts. 1 2 3 4. Now the pattern tells me to make a cluster of 3 half double crochets in the next space twice. So 3 half double crochets in the next space and 3 half double crochets in the next space again. So we're reducing the height and single crochet in the next space. So row number 4 is complete. Now some sizes are instructed to fasten off at this point, but some sizes are instructed to turn. So I'm making size 5x, so I'm going to turn, and row 5 is chain 1 and skip the same stitch and the next stitch and single crochet in the next stitch. We're creating this transition again. Okay, so at this point we've arrived at a space between 2 clusters, so we're instructed to make 3 half double crochets in the space below and 3 half double crochets in the next space, and then we're resuming granny stitch. So 3 double crochets in the next space and the next space and every space until we reach the end of the row. Okay, and now at the end of the row we're making a double crochet to the top of chain 3. At this point, size 3x is instructed to fasten off, and sizes 5x and 4x are instructed to turn. So row 6 is chain 3, double crochet in the same space, and 3 double crochets in the next space. Okay, so size 4x is instructed to make another granny cluster here, but we are following 5x. So we are making 3 half double crochets in the next space twice. So 3 half double crochets in the next space and 3 half double crochets in the next space again, and single crochet in the next space. We've finally arrived at the end of all the rows I needed to show you for the sleeve. So I've tried to make the transition of the heights. So at this point you're instructed to fasten off finally. So one side of your sleeve is complete, and now what you would need to do for all sizes, once you've followed all the steps needed on one side, you turn your sleeve around, but also flip it like a pancake, so you're facing the wrong side this time, and then go ahead and repeat every step for your size on this side, so that way you'll get the same symmetrical shaped sleeve that you need for your size. For the border, I thought I would do something like this. This is the bottom of the cardigan, and say you're starting with a granny square at the bottom. So you're joining new yarn. Say you're joining new yarn into the granny square. So we've joined new yarn, and now what we're making is a double crochet for every stitch when you have the granny stitch. So we're jumping straight into the double crochet in the first stitch of the 3 DC cluster. So double crochet here, double crochet here, and double crochet in the third stitch, and now make a slip stitch in between the 2 granny clusters, but also have in mind that you'll be making a double crochet into this stitch, so it will get squished a little bit, but we'll leave some space. So we know we need to crochet into this one. It got squished a little bit, but it's still there. So double crochet, and double crochet in the last stitch of the granny double crochet stitch, and again slip stitch and 3 double crochets. So what to do when you come across the rows, the sideways rows and the posts? So you have these double crochet or chain 3 posts. You were making your rows. So what do we do now? We were dealing with granny clusters here, and now we're dealing with posts. So we're going to crochet into the space behind the post at the end or the start of each row, so basically behind each post. So we're simply making into this space, we're making slip stitch and 3 double crochets into the space. And again we have another post, so we're doing the same thing. In the space behind the post we're making slip stitch and 3 double crochets. So, and when you keep going you have a border that looks like this. And for the corner I just did 3 double crochets behind the post.